Everything is a process, including with our bodies, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4 stages of hair growth. Hey guys, welcome back. What's up, subbies? And what's up, newbies? That's anybody coming in here, maybe for the first time, maybe for the second. We don't count around here. We really don't. I just want my subbies and newbies to come on in. Today, what we are going to was sort of going to be an extension of last week. Last week, we talked about rosemary oil, okay, and how it is conducive to hair growth as well as the overall health of our hair. I mean, we know what helps to grow our hair because we've been over it, right? We've talked about the vitamins and the minerals and different parts of our regimen that helps to keep our hair growing and retain the length. But what exactly lies beneath thereof? What exactly are the machinations at work that help us to see what we see on top of our head? Well, I'm so glad you asked. We are going to very quickly go over the 4 stages of hair growth. And there are 4 stages, okay? Anagen, Catagen, Telogen, and Exogen. And we are going to go over those really quickly, starting with the first one, which is Anagen, otherwise known as the growing phase. Now, we already know that your hair is not growing at the same pace at the same time all over your head. We're not like those little dolls where you can pull the hair out and it all come out at the same time and it's the same length at the same time. That does not happen with us. So with the Anagen phase, it's about 90% of your hairs are in this particular phase at any particular time. And again, this is the growth phase. This is the phase that everybody loves and everybody likes to flaunt and talk about. This is the action part, okay, of this 4-part series. This is where it's actively growing. And we already know that our hair grows about 1/2 inch per month. So with that being said, the Anagen phase is not only the action part of this 4-part series, but it's also the saga part, or the longest part of these 4 phases, as the Anagen phase or the growth phase can last up to 7 years. Not just 7 years, 7+ years of active growth. So that's Anagen. The second phase, or the next phase after Anagen, is the Catagen phase. Catagen phase, or otherwise known as the transition phase. Now, with this particular phase, things are slowing down, okay? The follicles are contracting, thus slowing down growth and slowing down the supply to basically encourage the growth phase. So things are slowing down. We're basically pumping the brakes in this phase. And while in the first phase, it's about 90%, most of your hairs that are going through that phase. With the Catagen phase, we're talking about 5% of your hairs at any particular time are now in this phase. So not only does the growth slow down, but the hair itself separates from the hair follicle. Now, it's not shedding. It just separates and becomes independent of its source. So basically detaches from the bottom of the hair follicle, thus making space for the new hair to basically arrive in that follicle. And this phase lasts about 10 days, to 2 weeks. So it's short and sweet. So that is the Catagen phase. Next up is the Telogen phase, okay? So we went over Anagen, Catagen. Now we're at Telogen, which is phase number 3. And in the Telogen phase, aka the resting phase, your hair is doing just that, okay? So now we have totally stopped as far as the growth, the hair growth. Telogen is basically the pre-shedding phase. So now it's totally stopped growing. It is in a static state. It's about to transition to the last phase, which we will quickly get to. But this is basically to allow Now that it's already separated from the hair follicle, its source, its base. This is basically to allow the new baby hair to be born, basically, in the hair follicle itself. And meanwhile, being that it has separated from its source, this is where it's slowly making its transition to the last phase. But it's in its resting phase. We basically on its last leg. And about 10 to 15% of your hairs are in this particular phase at any particular time. And this phase can last anywhere, it's about a couple of months that this lasts, okay? So it's not as short as the Catagen phase, but it's a little longer, lasting about a couple of months, 2 to 3 months, I would say. So again, this is the Telogen phase of this whole hair growth cycle. And last but not least, we have reached the Exogen phase. So like Exodus, leaving, a parting of the ways. We've been through the Anagen, the Catagen, and the Telogen. And now we are ready for the shedding phase. So this is basically a changing of the guard. The hair is now released of its duty and set off into the world and shed amongst the other hairs that have basically lived their cycle and did what they were supposed to have done. They lived their lives, okay, fancy and free, and now it is time to move on and be shed. So with that being said, the hair follicle now brings up the new growth or the new hair, which pushes out the old hair, okay, making room for the new hair to thus start its cycle. Now, this is the part where a lot of people get nervous. And if you don't know your hair or know the hair cycle, then you may. We should all be aware. And those who are initiated and have been with us, who are not necessarily newbies, those who know that we shed about 100 hairs per day. So this is normal. Hair shedding is normal. It is part of the cycle of hair's life, of the hair life on top of our head. So with that being said, this is the part where we must bid adieu to the old and bring in the new, and then start that whole cycle all over again. And this can last anywhere, well, we know that we shed hairs every day. And on average, this particular cycle can last anywhere from 2 to 5 months. So those are the 4 phases of your hair's life cycle: the Anagen, the Catagen, the Telogen, and the Exogen. Now, we do know, because we've been over some certain things, including rosemary oil last week, that these things can be affected, as far as your hair growth overall, can be affected by many factors, okay? Including our hair care, as well as hormones and genetics. Like I said, we've been over the nutrition and everything like that, but where genetics play in, your genetic makeup can allow or cause one to have longer phases than others, thus giving the impression or allowing those to grow hair much quicker or longer than others because of the hereditary components. This can all be at play and affect the whole cycle. One could have a longer anagen phase and a shorter telogen phase, or vice versa, thus affecting hair growth. Not only that, but hormones. We know that as we get older, we have hormonal changes, and therefore that can affect the follicles, thus making them smaller, a little tighter, and not allowing the hair to grow as quickly or as robustly as it has previously done. We know that hormones and genetics can play a part in pattern baldness in both women and men. And what has already been preset in our genetic makeup, as far as the telogen phase and all these other different phases and the link thereof. These different factors, again, hormonal, hereditary, dietary, these can have your hair more so in the resting phase than the growing phase. So it all counts. Everything matters with regard to hair growth and maintaining the balance of its cycle. So these things can affect the hair growth cycle of your hair, which can affect the look of it, the density, okay, hair loss, meaning excessive shedding of the hair, as well as you being in one phase longer than the other, thus giving the appearance that your hair just won't grow, okay? Now, we've heard a lot of people say, oh, my hair just doesn't grow. You know, everybody else's hair grows, this person, because they got that good stuff. But my hair doesn't grow. No, 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 no. Let's not do that, because your hair is growing. Okay, your hair is growing. However, you may be preset through your genetic makeup that one phase is longer than the other. So we always say around here, outside of any kind of medical malady or anything medically that may impede on your hair's growth, your hair is growing. Your hair will grow. Your hair is programmed to grow. Okay, it's built within you. So it's not about whether your hair is growing or not. It's all about understanding and maintaining your hair's cycle that's already been preset in order to see the growth and have the best hair life, not only for this year, but for this year and beyond. So you know how the Lion King was singing all about the circle of life, and you know they held the baby up, the baby lion, and was singing, and all the animals, and it's the same thing for your hair, or for our hair. Okay, our hair has a circle of life, so it's the circle of hair life. Okay, so the circle of hair life, there are 4 phases. And again, it's all about maintaining that balance and understanding that balance, understanding and knowing your hair. Remember, we talk about that. So understanding and knowing your hair and getting everything together, the inside as well as the outside regimen, because everything works together. We talked about that too, because everything works together for the good of our hair. So we got to maintain these things through our diet and everything that we can control. And as far as the genetic makeup, there are things that we can do to sort of, again, keep that balance and understanding what our personal cycle is, so we cannot lose faith in our hair growth goals, but understand what we need to do to encourage the growth and or protect it while it's in these other phases, and retain the length. So I just wanted to break that on down until it couldn't be broken down no more. I wanted to break it down into those 4 phases, okay, of hair growth, because of course, the more we know, the more we can grow. Hello! The more we know, the more we can grow. And that's personally with our lives as well as the hair on top of our head. It can be applied across the board. So now that we have gone over that, that is yet another feather in our cap of hair knowledge, okay? So we're going to keep this train going. And with that, we are going to put a button on it. So that wasn't too bad, right? We were in and out, okay? I want to thank you so much for dialing in and showing up. I really do appreciate it. I really do. And yeah, we'll be back talking about some more stuff, honey. We got more stuff to chit chat about, so you gotta come back for that. So you already know. It's going to be the same Dolce dial. It's going to be the same Dolce channel. So you come on back.